With the largest police force in the region, Barnstable Police Department needs officers all the time. With me today, I have Chief Sonovan. We're going to discuss how to become a police officer and why the importance of trying to keep a fully staffed police department is really important for our town. Chief Sonovan.
Hello.
How are you today?
Pretty good. Yourself?
Good. One of the things that we have realized over the years of talking with you is the enormous need to continuously fund, not just with money, the police department, but with people. So talk a little bit about how big is your department?
Right now the Barnstable Police Department is 118 sworn officers, but what most people don't understand is we also have a large civilian support staff. We have about 25 civilian support staff. So our actual size is about 143 people. And if you take a look at that, I mean, because you see the police officers out there every day driving around. They're the easy ones to pick out, or you go to a community event, the people wearing the uniform. But we have record staff that supports a lot of what the officers do, all the reports that get written and get prepared for go to court every day. We have mechanics on staff to make sure the vehicles are running, not just the vehicles, but ATVs, boats, and things like that. We have custodial staff to make sure everything's clean. Then you get the dispatching staff, which is 14 people right now to answer the calls and transfer and all that other stuff. And also, because now they're also dispatching for Hyannis Fire. So there's a lot of ancillary things that go on other than just law enforcement at the Barnstable Police Department.
Right. But one of the things that we have found over the years is that with different types of things happening, retirements or people getting out of the job, you're constantly in need of new officers as well, correct?
That is correct. Staffing is something that's always on our mind, because finding qualified people is one thing, retaining them is another, but then you also have to plan down the road, because it takes about a year to complete a hiring process once we start it. So you really kind of have to have your eye down the road. What are you looking at in the future? What the retirement's going to be? How things are working? And everyone thinks that, once you get hired as a police officer, you're just there. But a lot of people don't make the whole career. They get injured, they move on to a different career, they get promoted, so you got to replace them. People, obvious retirements and things like that. So those are constantly going on in any career field, but in a career field like law enforcement, where people get, a high-stress job where people get burned out or get injured, we have to deal with that as well.
All right. So what is that attrition rate in percentages, do you know? It's
rough to say, but over the years, we're looking at about, I couldn't say specifically, but
right.
it varies from year to year. It's kind of, it's hard to say,
Okay.
because as time goes by, as the department has grown, you've looked at times when there was a period of time when we were hiring maybe 1, 2, or 3 people at a time because of the size of the department. Then the department back in the mid-90s grew. It went over 100 personnel to 115 personnel and now to 118. So as you're growing the department in those different stages, you're increasing your rate of hire. So you're hiring larger academy classes. And what we're seeing now is what those larger academy classes started hitting in the early 90s. Now they're getting ready for retirements. So now you're starting to see more people retire at the same time.
So your attrition rate actually fluctuates throughout decades?
It does fluctuate over time. It really does. But right now, with the way the system works is, you can get on the job at 21. You have to be at least 21 to get on the job. You have to be 55 to really get your full investment in retirement. And 65 is mandatory retirement right now. The state's changed those numbers a little bit. So right now, anyone that gets on the job now, they're looking at 59 before they become fully invested.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's, that's gonna play with it a little bit. But you're looking at a large chunk of time for someone to get on a job like this at 21 and go, for someone like me, it's 34 years. And if you look at someone who's getting on the job now, 38 years
right.
to get your full vesture and make, get the most out of your pension and your time to retire. That's a long time. That's a long time to be on the job. And you've seen, we've had some people that have gone a long time, 45 years, something like that. I don't know, those days are, whether they're numbered or what, but the job has changed a lot. So right. I think our, attrition rate will change to reflect that a little bit.
Right. How many officers do you need now?
Right now, 10.
10.
10. Right now we have 2 in the academy, that are currently going to the Cape Cod Police Academy. They're running their second class right now. We are also in the process of hiring 8 more officers right now. So there's 10 vacancies right there that are not actually on the road. And people think, okay, you've gotten hired as a police officer, and this is kind of speaks to your point about how long it takes to get on the job actually. Those 2 people that are in the academy right now, although we're paying their salaries, they're not doing any law enforcement. They're not out there driving a police car. So I'm still having to replace those spots on shifts and count for them in other ways. So there's other people filling those functions while they're in the academy. And when they come out of the academy, they still have training to make sure, FTO process where they're riding around with somebody else to make sure that they're actually doing the right things and that they're actually someone we want to retain. So it takes quite a while before they're actually, it takes about a year before they're actually out on their own, actually filling a slot. So by the time they're filling a slot, we're looking to fill somebody else's slot. So it just constantly rolls.
Right.
Constantly.
And that hiring process too, not only from academy to riding in a cruiser on your own, but the entire process. You're a civil service department,
That's correct.
so that process to get to the academy is long as well?
It is long. Right now, like you said, we pointed out, we are a civil service agency, which means that our hiring, our retention, our disciplinary processes are all defined by civil service law. It's a Massachusetts state system. The state controls it, the state monitors it, the tests are given by the state. So what happens is, really basically, the state gives a police officer entry exam once every 2 years. Okay, so right now we just had the exam, the newest list got released this September, so we're looking at 2021 for the next exam. So once you take that exam, you get on a list, and we are a resident preference community, so you have to claim Barnstable as a residence preference community. You have to claim Barnstable as your residence, which means you have to, from the day of the exam back 1 year, you have to have been living full-time in the town of Barnstable. And then you can claim residence preference. Once you pass the exam and we actually decide to hire people, civil service will send us a list of names depending on how many people we're looking to hire. If we're looking to hire 10 people, they send us a list of 21 names. We have to go through that list of names and vet from that list. And that's who we have to hire from. If we don't get all 21 people come down, then we have to ask civil service for more names, but we have to have that minimum number if we're hiring 10. So we have to go through that process there. But once they take that exam, that list is good. You're on that list for 2 years, and that's the list we have to hire from for 2 years. It's a long time. Right. So if we're not hiring, people are just waiting. Right. So you potentially could wait on that list for 2 years before you get any notification to even come in for an interview or anything else. So once we get all the names we have signed, then we start doing backgrounds. We have a series of interviews and all that stuff. Once we select who we're actually hiring, then they have to go, they're notified, they're given what's called a conditional offer of employment. And it's conditional because there are other hoops that they have, other things they have to complete. They have to complete a medical exam, they have to complete a physical, they have to complete what they call a PAT, a physical aptitude test, and then they have to complete another physical exam to actually get into the academy before the academy starts. So there's a whole series of hoops that they have to get through before they get hired. And we have to do the psychological exam. So if anywhere along the lines, anything there they don't complete or can't complete, then they don't get hired. Once they're actually completed all that, then they get scheduled for an academy. And right now, we're lucky we have the Cape Cod Police Academy that's running its second class, but generally our other choices are Plymouth, there's an academy there, Randolph, you get New Braintree with the State Police Academy, Boylston, and those are, West Springfield has an academy. So a lot of the academies, they're out towards the western part of the state, other than Plymouth. Plymouth and Randolph and Reading are the ones that are generally in this area. But try to drive to Randolph or Reading on a summer afternoon and then or morning and trying to get back on Cape. So there's additional travel time for any recruits that are going. So we try and shoot for Plymouth and now obviously the Cape Cod Police Academy to get them into. But we're also dependent on those academy schedules. If an academy's not running, we may have to wait months before we can send recruits to the class. And they generally run 2 academy classes per year. So they usually run one in the fall and one in the spring. And they run about 5 months. So, you know, they got to allow enough time to reset and everything else. So while the academy class is in, you're trying to do your hiring process and you're trying to shoot for when they start their next academy. So you have that 5-month period that they're now in the academy. After they come out, we have a short orientation period of a couple of weeks at the police department, and then we put them in what they call the FTO field training process, where they go around with a veteran officer. At first, they're not allowed to really do anything. They just sit as a passenger in the car, and the officer teaches them how to use the radio, how to operate the vehicle, you know, orient them to the town, and school them in our policies and procedures. 'Cause the academy is a lot like going to college, where they teach you a lot of the theory and general law and just general things around the state that police officers are all expected to know. But then when you come to your community, you're taught community-specific things. What does the community and what does the specific department really expect of you, and what you really need to do procedurally wise? So they got to learn all that stuff too. And during the whole field training process, they're evaluated. Then once they pass a stage, they go to the next stage. There's 4 stages. The first stage, second stage, where they start doing a lot more on their own. They're starting to do the driving, more interaction with people. Third stage, where they're primarily doing all the interaction. The veteran officer really shouldn't have to interact unless something's going wrong. And then the 4th phase, where they're driving around with an officer who's in plain clothes, almost like a civilian ride-along, and they're expected to do everything. And during this time, you know, we're evaluating their report writing skills, because everyone thinks, oh, they can write up what happened, but courts and everything else, because of the specifics of law, you have to be able to make sure you enumerate all the probable cause and all the reasons behind why you did what you did, and that has to go over to court. So there's a long process. So from beginning to end, it's about a year-long process.
Right. So let's talk a little bit. Barnstable's a really diverse town. People, I'm not sure, you know, in their own little corners of the town of Barnstable, 7 different villages, but we're really diverse. What are you looking for in today's diversity in officers?
We're looking for diversity.
Looking for diversity, but bilingual, trilingual. You know, we have some language barriers here in town. What's the process when you, as chief, are looking for candidates? What's going through your mind?
You're trying to find officers that reflect the community. You know, you're trying to find people that are from the community, that represent the community, and not just, not just in the sense that they, look good in they're part of it. They're a part of the fabric. They're reflective of what makes up the community. When you look at a police department, it should be kind of like a microcosm of what is out there. There's kind of a little reflection of what the community looks like. Unfortunately, you pointed out over time, and there's been different lawsuits that have been brought up in different places about the fairness of testing. Is it fair to people who don't speak English? Is it fair to people, who may have learning disabilities or whatever? So you struggle through certain testing procedures to really find people that are reflective of your community. So that is a hurdle that we've always, not just us in particular, because we don't give the exam, it's a state exam, that the state has struggled with trying to find an examination procedure that's really fair to incorporate everybody. But over time, we've seen, especially now, we've seen a lot of luck with the recruiting of Brazilian population. We've been hiring a lot of people out of the Brazilian population lately, naturalized citizens that are making it into the cut. They're second generation or their first generation Brazilians coming to America, and they're getting hired by us. And we've hired quite a few of them recently.
Right. I've noticed an uptick of female officers as well.
Yep. We have been hiring quite a bit of female officers. We've been promoting quite a few of them lately. And again, there's another struggle there, because over time, the physical aptitude tests that are given tend to favor male candidates, because they were driven by body strength, upper body strength, which sometimes the female officers struggle with doing. Over time, they've modified it a little bit and allowed for different things to reflect the skills of female officers or potential female recruits, but even still, it's a little bit of a struggle. And now what we're seeing is just generally recruits across the board aren't as physically prepared as they once were. And we really, when we hire people, we really tell them, you got to really take physical fitness seriously when you go to the academy, especially now they're really screening people. They're really wanting to make sure they're hiring people that are fit already. You shouldn't be getting on the job and then trying to get fit, because let's face it, you're driving around 8 hours in a car, you're not getting a lot of time unless you take it upon yourself to go out and get physically fit. So you want to hire people that are fit already or have good habits already. And that is a big struggle nowadays with everything being a lot more of a virtual society, not as many people out there. You look at the parks that are empty, not as many people out there engaging in sporting activities on their own that aren't organized. And that comes back to haunt us and later on down the road.
Right. With such a large department, we're going to switch gears a little bit here. There's a lot of different types of positions of police work. The days of Detective Reed walking down Main Street, doing the beat on Main Street kind of thing. There's an enormous amount of cyber type of crime now. There is a lot of social crime where it's more, there's hate crime on the rise, those types of things. What type of positions are available through the department that, if somebody's thinking about becoming a police officer, once they start to kind of crystallize that idea, what are those paths that they can take?
What anybody's really thinking about becoming a police officer really needs to invest their time learning about is technology. That is really where police work is going in the future. Everyone carries a cell phone, everyone records everything they do, everyone's on social media, everyone is posting stuff on the internet, and most of our investigations all center around things like that. So whatever you can learn in college about how to leverage that stuff and how to work in that environment is really going to be a benefit to you when you get on the job, because it used to be, we used to specialize, we used to have a detective or two that would specialize in those investigations. Now you really need patrol officers that have the ability to pick that ball up and start looking at stuff. And our detectives are moving to the next step beyond that, how to track some of these things and how to mine other sources of data for that. So, falling back to the patrol level, you got to be comfortable in how to get on social media, how to leverage the internet to conduct your own investigations, how do you use open source stuff to find things out about people, because everyone just lives on the internet nowadays, and you really got to be comfortable with operating in that environment, not only from the standpoint of doing investigations, but also from doing your work. When I first got on the job, you could still handwrite a report and hand it in. Now everything goes through a computer, a mobile data terminal, a computer in the office. We operate on virtual networks. Officers have cell phones, tablets. You're operating on all these things, which, younger generations, that's what they do nowadays, it's what they're doing in school, but even still taking it to the next level to be as comfortable as possible with that stuff that you can, and learning as much about it as you can, and you being able to use it.
That's amazing that the job has changed that much, and that there's so many reliability on actual technology. Tell me, you mentioned that, when you first started, why did you become a police officer?
It's just I thought it would be exciting. You look at it, and let's be honest. You see the police in the car, and you want to drive that car. You want to be able to turn on the lights and chase bad guys, and maybe from you look at it, and you want to make a difference, but I think it's about about fairness. Everyone should be treated fairly, and that the people who are out there doing that, the police or even fire, should care about what they're doing and the people that they're interacting with. And it sounds cliche because everybody that sits at an interview says, well, why do you want to be a police officer? Oh, because I want to make a difference and I want to help people. But it's cliches because it's true. I think the people that come to work for us, in most police departments, they do want to help people. They do want to make a difference. But what we've seen over time is that the interactions that we have with the community, and I wouldn't say all the community, but because you're going to so many calls where you're dealing with, negative things, you're dealing with people committing crimes, you're dealing with victims of crime, you're dealing with death, you're dealing with all kinds of stuff that we have done a poor job of taking care of the people that work for us. We've done a poor job of taking care of ourselves. You look back at just over history, the tradition of the choir practice or alcoholism or substance abuse within not just police departments but fire departments is because there's a disease, and the disease is that we were not taking care of ourselves or the people we work with mentally, properly. It was just, suck it up, tough it out, you're weak if you can't do this or whatever, and that in the long run hurts you. And it's reflected by the fact that there are more police suicides every year than there are that the police are killed by somebody else. We're killing ourselves faster than people are killing us. And we're just really waking up to it now. It's really a big push in the police community. It's to start taking care of each other. And a lot of that comes from the hiring of younger generations, where they're learning through going through schools and for dealing with things that you can't ignore your own feelings or how you're dealing with things, because all it does is create baggage, and you're taking it out on other people. You see that, the complaints you get, complaints get high because people are burned out. They're treating people rudely. You think about it. You come home after a bad day of work and your kid spills the milk and you start yelling at them. It's kind of the same thing. You're taking your stress out on somebody else, and we're really starting to take more proactive steps on how to prevent that. Because you asked about attrition, and retirement is one, but most people, most of us, when we look back at the academy class we went through, you can probably pick out a lot of people that just didn't make it through their career for a lot of different reasons. They burned out, stress, or they got injured on the job, and just really didn't make, or decided that this career wasn't for them, and just really didn't make the full career. And that's kind of a shame. Most people get on a job and they're with a job. Out in society, it's kind of like people have a hard time getting loyalty from the company to keep them. They're getting laid off. Here, it's our guys just, you can't make it the long run. It's such a long run, and it's tough, and we need to do a far better job of supporting them and getting them through to the goal line.
Right. So we'll end with this. We are coming up very, very quickly on your 2-year anniversary as chief.
Yes.
What are some of the programs or initiatives that came through to you in this last 2 years that you think has changed the Barnstable Police Department?
No, we've really, we've really just kind of picked the ball up from previous administrations and Chief McDonald and just expanded on some of the things that he had already started, and even his predecessors that had already kind of started. The seeds were there, and we've just turned around and gotten tremendous support from the town and from town management to move forward and do these things. And some of those things are, we've got the Community Services Division that started out with the CIU, and now we've got the SROs that are in schools. We've got full-time school resource officers. The Adopt a School program is up and running and really working away. We've got now an officer that's working out of the Barnstable Adult Active Community Center, the back, right? And it's changed from the adult center, but the senior center. But we've got an officer that works out of there now to engage that population. And because it's a highly victimized segment of society, especially down here on the Cape. We have so many seniors and scammings and things that are going on. So we have somebody that works out of there on a part-time basis helping them out. We've expanded our canine program. We're sending an officer with a dog to school right now. We've got our drug
Alex.
dog. Yeah, Alex. Yes, Alex. Other things that we've done, we've really improved our training program to really sit down and project things out. We've done a lot more planning and looking to the future. We've updated a lot of our police fleet coming up. We've started mental health programs and wellness programs within the building for the staff that work there. And we mentioned a lot about the police officers, but let's not forget about the dispatchers. The police officers go to these scenes, but the dispatchers a lot of times are, they're getting the same stuff over the phone, but they don't know how it works out on the other end. They're not there to see that the person was revived and brought to the hospital. It's okay. They just take the call and move on to the next. So that's often an overlooked segment of what our part of our job is. And then just our civilian support staff that's always there, dealing with the public that comes in and working with the public to get them the things that they need that often people forget about. So although the police, it's a police department, but there are a lot of pieces that really pull together and make the place work. And the police are the most visible, but we really owe a lot of thanks to the people that work with us too.
Well, this has been our first Chief Chat with our new Safety
Chief Chat.
First. Chief Chat, you named it. We look forward to talking with you in depth every month. Thanks a lot, Chief.
Outstanding. Thank you.